includes 2 assistant city attorney vacancies and 1 legal fellow. And in addition, I would add 2 law interns are also included in our budget. And we do have 2 support staff who keep us in line in our department and make sure that we're doing all the things we need to do. Next slide. Our fiscal year goals for fiscal year 25 include hiring additional attorneys, which we desperately need in our department. We're relying a lot on outside counsel to assist. We're also trying to ensure that there is compliance throughout the city, whether it's federal, state, or city ordinances. And then, as you may or may not know, we have a huge litigation file right now, and we're trying to organize that and make sure that all of our bases are covered when it comes to the litigation. And then lastly, I'd like to seek grants for a crime victim advocate, which would assist us in the 67th District Court. In past years, there had been at least one. Currently, there is not anyone who assists crime victims in the 67th District Court, and that's something that I believe and the staff believe is desperately needed. Yes. So, as you know, the city is responsible for the 67-5th Division of the District Court, and I have my senior assistant city attorney here, Tom Sparrow, who will talk about that operation and all the hard work that he and other attorneys from our office provide. Tom?
Good evening. Again, my name is Tom Sparrow, and I'm one of the assistants at the city's law department. In addition to doing civil litigation, I also supervise the city's operations at the 67-5 District Court. And that's the court down at the McCree building, not the one across the street, but down at the McCree building. We presently have, I checked this morning with the court administrator, we presently have 1,146 active cases at the district court. Now, you got your eyes wide open there, but a lot of those cases, it might be in warrant status. They aren't all happening exactly at once, but they are ongoing. What the city prosecutes is its ordinances. And there's 4 or 5 different types of cases. I listed them out there. OM stands for ordinance misdemeanor, and that's the city's criminal ordinances that prohibit things like domestic violence or disorderly conduct or malicious destruction of property. We also prosecute ordinance traffic violations, and these are crimes like driving with a suspended license, leaving the scene of an accident, having no insurance on your vehicle. They're all vehicle related. We prosecute the city's drunk driving cases. If you committed drunk driving in the city of Flint, you're going to come see me or the other attorneys down at the district court. If you could go to the next slide. We also prosecute the city's civil infractions, and those are again like speeding tickets and things of that nature. The actual numbers are there's 152 pending OM cases. There's 781 traffic cases, 28 drunk drivings, 159 civil tickets. The last category of cases are ON, which stands for non-traffic ordinance. I refer to them as ordinance nuisances. Part of the city's primary function is to help enforce the city's building code. And we work very closely with the building safety and inspection team, Mr. Ryder and his staff. What happens, how this works is they write tickets. The tickets get filed with the district court, and then they come to our office for prosecution. We have been using those tickets as a mechanism by which to clean up the city and really target the worst homes and the worst offending people. Mike goes out and has his staff write them tickets, and then they come to our office, and what we have been doing is filing motions in these tickets as part of these cases to get orders to have the judge the city is allowed to retain 20% of the insurance proceeds for the purpose of itself either fixing or demolishing the home if the homeowner doesn't do it. The city has literally hundreds of homes which have been damaged or gutted by fire that the homeowners have walked away from. And so within the last 6 months, we've been trying, we're kind of grinding our gears a little bit, but we've been trying to get a smooth operation going where the Blight department issues the ticket for failing to have the home fixed up. The law department goes in and gets the judges of the district court to issue the order to demolish the property because the homeowner won't do it. And then once we get the order, we send it to Mr. Arnold in the Blight department. And now to date, it's no great number, but we have had 2 homes demolished so far. And we've got orders for 13 more, and we're moving forward with it. So the district court consists of 4 city judges who are elected within the city: Judges Marable, Judge Wynn, Judge Marsh, and Judge Crawford. It's part of the 67th district court, which is now run by Genesee County, but by state law, we still get to pick our own judges. So that's going forward well. If you could go to the next slide, I have a couple of pictures here just if you want to see. This home was a home that was ticketed by the Blight department. It was a drug house. There were numerous crimes being involved there. This home was boarded up in December. It's just one example of what we've been doing.
That was actually around the corner from my house.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, there was a search warrant executed there. But after we got the order from it was Judge Mars. Go ahead and go to the next picture. That was the result. And the home is now vacant. It's boarded up, but it certainly is better than it was before. And certainly the city doesn't have the resources to go in and repair all of these homes. But if we can get them boarded up, we can save the neighborhoods. I think that's the real goal here. We've had several cases. There was the really bad one on Victoria Street, 1014 Victoria, about 2 years ago, that the neighbors were really desperate for some help because they just had, people who were just vagrants who were just in the homes, living there, and doing whatever they wanted to. So that's an example of really kind of the program we put together with the Blight department and are working on. If you go to the next slide, please. Just some other statistics that I can put together. File line. The city over the last year, last fall, we implemented a program, a case tracking management program that's called File Line. It's run by a company called File Line. It's assisted us in keeping better track of our cases and performing some of the more mundane functions that we've been able to automate, such as generating subpoenas and sending out crime victims' rights information. But through File Line, this year alone, we reviewed 371 requests for warrants. We didn't issue them all, but we reviewed them. We've also, since the File Line was implemented back in September 1st, or roughly September 1st of last year, we have sent out what are called crime victims' rights packages to 452 crime victims of crimes and cases in the city. And then also, finally, I mentioned in passing, or I mentioned it earlier, we've been able to obtain 13 demolition orders, 4 homes that we have fire insurance withholding money for. So that's my little part of this. Our Chief Assistant, Joe Cups, has got some more information for you, and thank you very, very much.
Thanks, Tom. So the Administrative Hearings Bureau was established in 2023 with 2 hearing officers. Before it was created, the enforcement and collection of fines that were issued by the city's NSOs didn't meet the needs of the city and its residents. Essentially, the efforts of the NSOs that were employed by the city that were out there traversing the city, they weren't being fully realized. So the Bureau is one piece of solving the Blight puzzle. Tom talked about a couple of those pieces. The Bureau itself is another one of those pieces. One of the law department's attorneys, Attorney Willie Wallace, he's tasked with enforcing and collecting on those tickets that are issued by the NSOs. The implementation of the Bureau and the efforts of the Law Department, they provide one more mechanism for the cleanup of blight and the collection of those fines that are being issued. So as you'll see on the slide that's up there right now, before implementation of the Bureau, the NSOs issued 803 tickets, but only $8,210 was collected. I think the cleanup of the blight issues themselves also correlates with that fine number. After implementation of the Bureau in the most recent fiscal year, collections increased to almost $48,000, but more importantly than the collection of just the fines, the cleanup of blight increased as well. And you'll see there were 63 blight cleanups and 57 cases were adjudicated by the 2 hearing officers of the Bureau. If you would go to the next slide. So in recent years, not only in the city of Flint, but I think nationwide, we've seen a strong interest in the activities of government and the goings-on behind the scenes. The Processing of Freedom of Information Act request by the Law Department is done pursuant to Michigan statute. That law in the state of Michigan, it dictates how those FOIA requests are received, timelines for processing, reasons for exemption, and lots of other details. The Law Department processes all Freedom of Information Act requests that are received into the city. It's a little different than how some other municipalities do it. In other government entities, they will have a Freedom of Information Act coordinator in the police department, and they'll have another one in the fire department, and they'll have another one for the Department of Public Works. Here in the city of Flint, all of those Freedom of Information Act requests are routed through one place. The FOIA coordinator, who is one of the paralegals in the law department. That does a couple things for the city of Flint. It ensures consistency, it helps to speed things up, and it allows those other personnel in, for example, the police department or the fire department, to concentrate on what they do best, policing or the fighting of fires, not processing these Freedom of Information Act requests. The Freedom of Information Act requests that the city receives, they're addressed to a number of entities. They seek information from, again, the police department, the fire department, assessing records, tax records, a variety of areas. And they seek a lot of different types of information from the city. They seek documents. We've had FOIA requests for emails, text messages, videos that are held by the city, and a full range of documents. So as I said, all of the Freedom of Information Act requests that are sent by members of the public to the city, they all flow through the Law Department's FOIA coordinator. In 2024, she processed 2,016 requests, and so far, just in the first 4 months of 2025, she has already received 719. I know that slide says 713, but she already received 6 more just since that number was pulled. So in processing these, Tom talked about the system FileVine that we use for criminal matters. With respect to FOIA requests, we have another cloud-based system that the Law Department utilizes, which is called Next Request. That helps to streamline and speed up the process of sending those out, reviewing them, and returning the results to the requester. That makes it a lot more doable for only one individual to handle all of those FOIA requests, 2,000 approximately per calendar year. Thank you.
So to wrap up, for the law department, I do want to just talk a little bit about our experience level. We have a legal fellow who is gaining experience, and the rest of our staff, we have up to 20 years experience working in the law profession. Our support staff is great. They're very timely, they're very responsive, as you all know, because you all tend to have first contact with them, and they pride themselves on making sure that they fulfill the needs of the requesters once they come into the office. huge workload that we all have. So we welcome any questions. Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Michelle. Pardon? You first, I go last.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for the presentation. You actually knocked out quite a few questions that I have. So we kind of streamlined this. I have to go back up on my list now. Che, Mr. Moore, shocking to see you here. Kidding. Do we still hold Blight Court in City Hall?
Yes.
Yes. And about how many cases do we have? Is it like weekly, monthly, or how does that process work?
Attorney Wallace from our office is the primary attorney who handles those, and it's my understanding the cases are heard approximately one time per month.
Oh, one time, okay.
And with that, we do have two administrative hearing officers who handle those cases.
How do we prioritize cases for litigation, and like what measures are in place to ensure that settlements are negotiated at a reasonable cost to the city?
So those are two different questions.
Okay.
The prioritization really is about the deadlines, meaning that if a case comes in and normally if it's properly personally served on the individuals who are able to accept service, it will be 21 days. And for those that are sent by certified mail, it will be 28 days. So that's the first order of business, to make sure that we were properly served and to get that case assigned. And then what was your second question, Councilwoman?
The second question to that was, and hold on, let me go back up.
Oh, as far as settlements,
Yeah.
each case is different. We try our best to work through the matter. Settlement is not always an option for various reasons, but we look at each case separately and it's on a case-by-case basis.
And I know we have some openings in our legal department. You talked about that earlier, so sometimes, and so I'm just wondering, how does the department decide when to use in-house legal counsel versus contracting with outside law firms? And what are the cost differences associated with those decisions?
Okay, so our department, the lawyers, because of their experience level, can handle just about any case that comes before us. The issue will be whether we have time based on the current workload that we have. So we will look at the law firms that specialize in certain areas, firms that we work well together with, and we will assign cases based on that. What were your other questions?
Just the cost differences associated with the decision to hire outside counsel.
Again, it depends. Certain law firms have an expertise that often will require a higher hourly rate, but currently most of the law firms at this point they're competitive, I would state.
And can you provide any, because I know legal, you have to tread lightly here, so, but can you provide any more detail on any major outside counsel expenses from last year and how we are planning to manage or reduce the cost for 2026?
Well, I can get you the number because I did request that report. I just don't have it with me because we are constantly looking at it to see where we are as far as expenses are concerned. That's one of my goals, is to try to reduce the amount of outside counsel that we use. However, at this juncture, they are providing excellent service. They are assisting us because we don't have full staff. And so as we get more staff, we will be able to reduce the usage of outside counsel.
happens, right? It's not unique to Flint, but sometimes municipalities lose attorneys to the county or the state or things like that. Are we competitive in our salaries when we're hiring attorneys? Is there any reason you can pinpoint if there would be a challenge in getting those vacancies filled, or why we may be losing attorneys at the rate we lose them?
Well, I mean, over the years, the law profession has had its ups and downs. Here at the city, it seems as though during COVID, of course, we were down attorneys. A few years following the beginning of COVID, I think at one point we actually got close to being fully staffed, not fully staffed.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but what do we consider fully staffed in our law department?
Well, our budget allows for us to have 12 staff members. That would include 8 attorneys, 2 paralegals, and 2 paid interns. And of those attorneys, 1 would be a legal fellow, so I've included them in that total. So, depending on the experience level of those attorneys who come in, it could be at the beginning of their career. Working in the law department offers an attorney a wide variety of experience. We will get every kind of case possible, and that's a good thing. For others, it may not be something that they can keep up with, so being able to find attorneys that like the variety and can keep up with it can be a challenge. We are looking at different areas, different publications, different organizations that we can submit our job description to, with the hopes that we can get attorneys who fit the bill to be able to work here.
Okay, and what challenges does the department face in pursuing legal action for blight elimination? And are there any barriers or changes needed in the law or policy to make the efforts more effective?
Changes in the, I mean, it's a matter of resources. Oh, sure, yeah. For the kind of smaller stuff, for like a home, the things we have now, I think the process we have right now works well. Where building and safety goes out, issues a ticket, and then in the district court, we're able to obtain a motion. I think we have the judges on board. That, I think, is working well. When you get issues like, and for instance, this issue just came up. There's a store in the city which has people are loitering outside of it. It's late at night, and there's been a whole bunch of crime. There's no good mechanism right now to address that whatsoever, short of filing a large lawsuit, and a very time-consuming lawsuit in the circuit court, trying to get a judge to agree that this is a nuisance under Michigan common law nuisance. Were the state's legislature, or even the city, to take a stab at passing ordinances, defining nuisances, and allowing us to do it in circuit court, or in district court, that might be one way to go at it. In other words, a nuisance statute. Any store that allows, X number of people to hang out after a certain hour, it becomes a magnet for crime. If council were to pass something like that, or to take a look at something like that, I think that would be extremely helpful. There would be a lot of challenges to it, because there would be First Amendment challenges. I have a right to stand on the street corner and watch the girls go by. But that might be an idea.
Are there other cities that already have those in place?
I don't know. I haven't looked, but I could look. If you'd like me to, yeah.
I'm just gonna request it anyway, so.
I knew that was another assignment coming from you, yes.
Yeah. I sent you one today, so, and this is kind of in line with the next question, and it might be weird, so I'll just go along with it. Are there any new partnerships or initiatives planned to improve the speed and efficiency of nuisance property resolutions? I said, are there any new partnerships or initiatives planned to improve the speed and efficiency of nuisance property resolution? I can answer that for you, yes.
If there are, none that I'm aware of right now, but maybe you guys know something I don't, so.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. I mean. Okay. Some of these, and excuse me as I skim, because some of them you answered in the reservations. Okay, so how does the legal department track and ensure compliance with both state and federal regulations, particularly in areas like labor laws, environmental standards, and civil rights protections?
Well, right now, we are updating our Title VI provisions on the city's website. So we may either receive a notice from the federal government, one of the agencies saying that we're not in compliance, and then, we react to that. Something that the law department is doing currently is when we are approving contracts involving grants, for example, we are making sure that we have certain documents before we can approve. So, for example, we want to make sure that the vendor is approved through Michigan's licensing and regulatory agency, known as LARA. We want to make sure that they have current insurance. And then we also make sure that they're in compliance with not owing the city any money, either for blight, or water, or taxes, things of that nature. So we're trying to get everybody else up to speed, but that's an area that we are working to increase compliance throughout the city.
Okay, so are there any emerging regulatory issues that the department anticipates needing additional legal resources for? And if so, how is this particular budget being adjusted to prepare for that? Because I know we have a lot that's happening rapidly, federally, which will affect statewide. And so we see a lot of changes in regulatory things. So are there any emerging issues that we anticipate needing additional counsel for? And if so, or legal resources, period. And then if so, how is I don't have the budget in front of me, but how is this budget being adjusted to prepare for those?
Well, there are a lot of changes happening on the federal level, and Tom checks the executive orders that are being issued by the federal government so that we can stay abreast of those things. Often, we will receive notice from the federal government, for example, that one of the grants is being rescinded. And so at that point, we are in a reactionary mode because there's no way that we would have known that a grant that was awarded last year or by a previous administration would be rescinded. So in those instances, we are only able to react. I did look at, what would it take for us to challenge the rescinding of such an award? That becomes very costly unless you have a multitude of municipalities who are also in the same boat and you band your resources together. But those are very, very costly, and I didn't realize that, but I certainly wanted to inquire because certain grants we had already awarded to various organizations, and now we have to send out termination notices saying we don't have the money, and so we cannot award what has been rescinded.
Kind of going into the next questions. What specific risk management strategies are being implemented by the legal department to mitigate potential financial risks, particularly related to lawsuits and liabilities?
Well, in the past, the city of Flint had a risk management department. It does not have that, and so that's us. And so, we're trying to balance it because, there are a lot of things and practices that have been in place for some time with the city, and just trying to risk department. We are, working through that. It'd be nice if we did have a separate department, but in the meantime, we are filling that void.
Okay, so I'll just flow into this next question then, because you kind of already answered the last question about, well, my next question would have been, what involvement does the department have in shaping policy recommendations? No, I'm sorry, I skipped a question, hold on.
Well, that's not a stupid question.
No, I said I skipped a question.
Oh, okay.
Because the next question was going to be, does the department anticipate any changes to the city's risk? But you talked about with federal things being clawed back and haven't explained that to people. That's possible exposure. So then the next one is, how does the legal department contribute to the development of new city policies, particularly with regard to development, zoning changes, and regulatory enforcement? You kind of answered that a little bit, so we can't go to that one. What involvement does the department have in shaping policy recommendations that are brought before the city council, especially regarding legal complaints and risk assessment?
Right, so because we touch every department, each of the attorneys have client departments that they are responsible for and that they provide additional services to. So, for example, one attorney is assigned to the police department, another one to the fire department, another one to planning and development. And then we also assist the boards and commissions. So we have an attorney assigned to the planning commission, the historic district commission, the zoning board of appeals. And so as questions come up, we make recommendations. As they ask questions, we also make recommendations. So that's how it flows through the law department. And
I feel like somebody slipped you my questions because my next question is, how are personnel resources within the legal department allocated across different functions? You already answered.
that was the goal, to make sure we answered all questions before they came up.
It's a
So
little suspicious now.
Who's got the joy of city council?
Okay, so are there any planned investments in technology or infrastructure for the legal department that are reflected in this budget? And how will these investments improve the department's efficiency or service delivery?
So, we all know about AI. And so it has its good points and its bad points. We have been exploring and having internal conversations about the use of AI potentially for our department. From what I have been able to gather, I am a supporter to an extent. And it would help with the drafting of certain mundane legal documents. But that is not without oversight and the analysis of the staff attorneys. So no one in the department believes that it is a substitution for the legal analysis and human touch that is required in the legal profession. So if we are able to employ AI, and in certain departments it would probably be good for the use of it as well. That would mean that the law department would meet with administration, human resources to talk about enacting a policy so that it's pervasive, but there are rules and regulations that would limit its use, because we do want to make sure that we're being efficient, but we're not letting quality suffer. So AI for the law department, like I stated, would assist with certain mundane tasks, but it would not be unleashed on its own. Yeah, absolutely. And then we always are looking for case management software that will help us with our caseload.
Okay, and then Janae's got a couple more that I'm done. What resources are allocated in the budget for handling employee grievances, disciplines, and investigations?
But when I think about that, as far as investigations, that's a budgetary item.
And I know that you said that, you know, everybody's kind of spread out and help with different departments and everything. I know that, sometimes, because there are so many ordinances on the books, right? So many different laws, so many things that people may not be aware that there is even supposed to be enforced. So, do you offer or do any training or anything with any of the departments to kind of keep them abreast of, certain laws that might affect them or they might be responsible for enforcing? Does the legal department offer that sort of thing for other departments?
No, I'm gonna let Tom speak to that because he has a lot of contact with, planning and development, more so BS&I, which is under that department. But what we're looking at is doing some training, because if we find that certain, ordinances are coming up, we wanna make sure that when it is an issue, that the department understands the full scope of what is required and what they should be doing. But I'll have Tom, defer to Tom as how it deals specifically with BS&I, because they work very well together.
Well, it's, the issue comes up really in the course of business, and it has to be a better example is with the police department. I work closely with the police department a lot, and there's a lot of back and forth, and this is good, this is bad, this is a bad practice you guys need to stop doing. And I'll direct that to the supervisors, especially the traffic department, regarding tickets, regarding traffic enforcement, regarding nuisance forfeiture. We tried recently, and so it's not training per se. We're not conducting training sessions, but certainly there's a good exchange of information going on between the police supervisors and myself in the police department and in planning and development with Max. I work with Max, here's a good example just to help. There are various requests. I'm on the zoning board of appeals, and they have forms that to help people file various requests. Well, one of the forms just wasn't right. It wasn't following Michigan law. And so I worked with him, and we changed the wording of it. It still complies with the city's ordinance, but the form makes much more sense now, and I think it assists people who are trying to get variances. And so from my experience, that's how it's working. It's on-the-job training with the various departments.
Two other things, though, that I did fail to mention is that we also have handled the Michigan tribunal cases, bankruptcy cases. So, yeah, the law department does a lot. Yeah.
So you said 12 would be what is considered fully staffed. How much are we budgeted for in 2026? How much staff? I would imagine it's not all 12, right?
If we could go back to the first slide. So for fiscal year 25, the figure there includes the 12, and so does 26.
In regards to the personnel, I'm very concerned that we're unable to keep city attorneys. And I know that several years ago, we did the wage study and we did the exempt wages. How much do you feel that the wage that we're offering is affecting the ability of the city to hire attorneys?
Well, since the new wage study figures were enacted, I'm not sure yet. Flint is unique because we don't have a law school nearby, right? And so we are pulling attorneys from East Lansing or Detroit. And so, Detroit is the place to be right now. So I guess if we offer, we do have a nice salary range, though, I will say that. and that's important. We think we're competitive. I think that might require a little bit more research on our end, but the wage study figures really increased, and so that helped us a lot. We're still struggling to get attorneys, but we will look at other places to have our advertisement go out to see if that maybe there's a void someplace else that we need to have our advertisement go out to.
I would assume people from California would love to come to Flint since it's so much cheaper to live.
Yes.
Also, in regards to that, with our interns and our legal fellow, we're having difficulty with those positions as well?
It does not appear we are. So, for example, I have spoken with 2 potential legal fellows. We do have 1 intern lined up for the summer. So in that area, I think that we're okay, but it'll be nice when we have a signed contract. Because with the legal fellow, you know, the requirement is that you've graduated from law school. But during this time of the year, those attorneys are preparing for the July bar. So they're not most likely going to be looking to go into the position at that point because they're going to spend the summer studying for the bar. So the earliest that they will be available will probably be sometime in August or September.
How soon do you get notification of passing the bar or not?
Well, this is a universal bar, so I'm not sure how long it would take prior to that. If you took the July bar, most likely you will find out around Halloween. When you take the February bar, usually it had been around Memorial Day.
So that's on par with what the CPA exam is. It takes, that's about the same amount of time.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and of course, having taken that time to study for the CPA exam, I totally understand that. Because I'm wondering if, since we have vacancies and the money is there in your, because you haven't spent all your budget, you're not going to spend all of your budgeted line items for attorney. If, and I'm going to bring this to Mr. Moore as well as an idea, is while you're waiting to fill that city attorney, that we could get another fellow position filled. Chances are they're not going to stay.
Well, they may stay, but again, we wouldn't have them most likely available to us until probably the fall,
Right.
if they have just graduated.
Right.
Yes.
But that's an idea that I'm thinking that might work for you. Because I want to make sure, I know the council hasn't made it easy on you guys at all. Joe's trying not to grin. And I want to send as little legal work out as possible because it does cost us more money. All right, so that was the one thing about the wages.
May I interject there for just one second? To be fair, a legal fellow would not be able to handle generally the types of cases that are